Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, creatures of all persuasions, numbnuts and not numbnuts. Today I decided to make a video. What's this video about? Well, sorry about the noise in the background. It's my little dog. He decided he's got a dog biscuit. You are quite correct, Kama. Well, this video is about all these people you'll see on YouTube and on various other platforms. Just out. Anyway, on various other platforms that will go on and on and on about top 10 ways to find out you're a witch. What deity should I work with as an occultist? And what clothes should I wear as a witch? And how do I interact with this as a fashion statement and make fun of people's religions? Well, this is, I guess, my answer to all that bullshit. Please stop. Seriously, all you're doing is making fun of people's religions. You're just making fun of their practices. It's to the point now where we have so many people LARPing in the community, pretending to be practitioners, pretending to be witches, and demanding respect as such, pretending to be occultists, pretending to be serious practitioners, that it has turned into a laughing stock. Yes, some of these people genuinely have mental illnesses, delusional issues, and things that they actually need help with, and are not getting help from people that are there just to role play, there to treat it as a joke, there to make fun of people. Yes, okay, it's fun to do role plays. Have your own role playing server. Have it out and open at your role play, if that's the case. But the reality is, to become an occultist, to become a practicing witch, isn't making up spells, isn't making up formulas and running off self-gnoses. It's hard work and research. It's what it is. Some of us are better at it than others. I'm probably not good at it myself. But it's not going in there, pretending to do a bunch of shit with random correspondences, not knowing what you're doing, making a cursed bottle for somebody else and burying it on your property. Most witches' bottles that are designed to curse people with the rusty nails, the urine, the spit, the pig's blood, the fucking cow shit, the sewage, and everything else mixed into them to curse people, are meant to leach out negative miasmas. They're meant to leach out negative things into somebody else's property that you're cursing. And first of all, if you're cursing, you're probably too childish to be practicing. This isn't a practice for children. This isn't even a practice for mature adults. This is a practice for people that are getting, well, in the case of ceremonialism, this is a practice for your twilight years. You're too young when you're 30 practicing it. I will admit I am too, but it's like, some of these people are taking it to the extremes of they're literally fucking children living at their parents' houses wondering how they hide their practice. It's like, you don't. You buckle down, do your schoolwork. If you're not good at school, practice for a career or a profession and grow the fuck up. That is doing the practice. Because the practice is about making a better life, well, becoming a better person, having a better life, and helping others. It's not about, oh, I want to be one with the woods today, so I'm going to take a bunch of fucking drugs. And that's another problem with these retards, is taking a bunch of drugs. So I guess I'm giving today a whole list of reasons not to become a witch and seek out proper health care. First of all, if you're doing it as a fashion statement, just admit that it's a fashion statement and aesthetic. Move on. Stop deluding everybody and stop being an seeking attention whore. Most people who are seeking attention are ironically whores. Secondly, stop taking other people's religions and making it into a mockery. It's just hurtful to everybody. Thirdly, stop doing made up random things based on what you think correspondences are because you feel like it. Buckle down, do research, realize why these things were applied, and then you can work off it. After many years of study, you might actually be good enough to come up with your own spells based off correspondences and do experimentation. Lastly, well, actually, no, we'll do a top 5, we won't do a top 4, we'll add in another one. But 4, think before you do. Act in a respectful manner, learn about the situation, understand what you're doing before you try to create problems for yourself and others. And finally, learn and realize the contextual intentions and contextual practices behind the historical spell work you're doing. Find out the historical practices. Don't do a random fucking idiot thing which half the community from Become a Living God does, and a lot of these people are no longer with Become a Living God because they've gone down the toilet in their practice, and they really have. Most practitioners from 10 years ago are really just brain dead, non-functional idiots because they were doing the demon worship, they were doing the demon sacrifice, they weren't following the greater release, the Key of Solomon, they were using it for their own ambitions. They weren't using ancient Sumerian gods, they were using Judaic demons, which are, some of them are named after ancient Sumerian gods. Most of them have no connection, at least none that we can find apart from similar names. But my name is Milton, so I'm exactly like Martin down the road. No, that's not how these things work. Do your research. Stop picking up random color correspondences and random crystal correspondence. Actually do the work. Look into where these things come from. Look up the history, the etymology. It's not that hard. Get your research materials, get your books, and study. Like, most people don't realize that ceremonial magic is actually a bastardization of the terminology of ceremonial ritual prayer, which usually is a reference to ceremonial Jewish ritual prayer, a Jewish ceremonial prayer, which is a precursor to, well, modern day Judaism, which is basically, once the practice started breaking down during the Renaissance period, we had people trying to bring it back up. Now we have people that have recreated what was lost, blah, 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 and we have the whole differential branches. And it is a differential branch. They split off relatively equally. So basically, a lot of it is going more orthodox. When you're using the demons from the Goetia and that, they are meant to be used underneath angels, underneath prayer, and for services. This is not magic, this is prayers. This is prayer workings. Most of ceremonial magic has nothing to do with magic. It is prayers. That's what it is. It is prayers behesting demons to behest angels to behest gods. Well, to behest God in his many various names and forms. That is why you have the whole Jewish ceremonial practices to begin with. That's what it is. And then people are summoning these demons underneath no Abrahamic God. Then you have people that do random practices and claim to be Wiccan. Wiccan is its own form of ceremonial practice. It is a practice mostly around its own prayer systems, its own basis, and it was founded by Gerald D. Gardner, that mixed traditional cunning folk practices, some of which would classify as witchcraft, with ceremonial magical practices, with its own interpretation on the 3 pillars principle being divided up between the masculine and feminine God. That's why you have the power. That's why you have the whole, essentially the power of 3 stuff, which that actually comes from a movie, but it's a really good reference at this point. And it also comes from Charmed. But yeah, but basing your practices of my intention, therefore I'm in the right, is really childish. Most of what people are doing nowadays is childish fantasies and deliberate misinformation at this point. If you're basing your practice of somebody else's self-gnosis, be open and honest about it when you're producing it. There is nothing wrong with it. If you're basing it off Aleister Crowley's gnosis, who was not a very high ranked magician in any order that he was in until he founded his own order, which that's a whole different kettle of fish. He did make functional practices. His practices, I will admit, I'm not a fan of him, but his practices are functional. They do work. They are crude. They are crude. They are not the crudest practices I've ever come across, but they are forcing stuff to work that normally don't go together. But there's nothing wrong with it. But I even forget what I was saying. But what I'm getting at is we need to start actually shunning and calling out these imbeciles in the community that are using it to escape from reality and act in a delusional manner. We need to call them out. But we also need to stop being complete assholes to people that are turning around and saying it is fantasy and saying it is a LARP. Like, I have to say this. Azura's Dragon's Feather's whole stuff was bullshit. It was complete bullshittery, utter bullshittery. When she was confronted about it, she said it was all made up. I pointed this out in a forum shortly after she made a video on this, and I was kicked out of the fucking group because how dare I mistalk about her. I joined there to be a troll anyway, but I found that funny. That was the reason I was kicked out, because I just repeated her being open and honest about it. I would have to say that she shouldn't have led people on. I'm going to say this. There are groups from Become a Living God, and for political reasons, I'm not going to point out most of them in this video, because god damn, it would be fucking hilarious for me and one of my co-hosts that plays Fortnite with me. It'd be rather funny for me and him to point out a lot of these names and practitioners, because yeah, a couple of them are actually currently in jail. But anyway, a lot of people are just stuck in the realms of complete fucking delusion as well. And it's not helpful to people to play along with their delusions. It's not helpful. These things need to be pointed out, preferably in a relatively kind manner, so they can get the fucking help they need. Because a lot of these people that are getting encouraged online are batshit crazy. And basically the point of this video is to know that you're a practitioner either underneath ceremonialism or witchcraft is, start calling people out. Start having enough love for people, enough respect for people, enough self-respect to hurt somebody to help them. Like, here's an old reference, and this is an old reference. Sometimes you have to hurt something to help it. Take a bird with a broken wing. You want to have the bird recovered to health? You don't leave it to suffer and say kind words to it. You set the bone, which will cause it extreme pain. You put it in a nice, dark, cool place, which will cause some psychological torment. This is the safest, this is the best thing we can do to it. Dark, cool place, it's warm, but not too hot, not too cold. You're going to have to wait for it to recover from the fever, and then the bird will be fine within a few days and it'll be able to fly off, because the bone will knit it back together. Now, yes, nowadays you will take them to the vet. As I said, it's an old, outdated proverb, but the facts of the matter is, sometimes you have to cause pain to do a greater kindness. And I know this from a fact. I've had people that were my friends and I've hung out with in the occult community and things that needed to be told they're not a reptilian, they're not a lizard, that because they went through some issues. Within a couple of weeks after it was confronted to them in a manner they couldn't deny it, they were perfectly fine. I still would encourage them to this day to actually talk about it with a counsellor, because it's probably had long-term psychological effects. But they were fine after that. They went normal. And some people might mock them, blah, blah, blah. Outside of fun and games, genuinely mocking them rather than just gently teasing them is a ridiculous thing. You need to just turn around and, allow them to own up to it and move on, because everybody has their breaking points. Everybody has their points in this craft, which is too much. And a lot of young people are going into this craft where they have to do everything all at once. Books that were written by yogis that are intended to take years and years and years to get through, people are rushing through in a moment within a few weeks and missing out of all the information. I'm going to tell you something. If you've gotten one of the books of one of the Grand Orders, Orders Orientalialis, the Golden Dawn, Greater or Lesser Key of Solomon, which you should get all the books of Solomon actually. He's got 5 books that are pretty good. If you're going through most practices that I can, actually any practice that I can think of, and you can go through the entire initiation in a couple of months to a year. There is singular initiations you can do, but if you're going through to get through a ranking system of a whole practice in less than a year, you're missing out of all the information. You're not doing it. What you're doing is you're power reading books at random, sporadic intervals, doing some practices that help you build up to the main practice some meditation rituals and things that help you build up to the main practice, and then doing practices that you're supposed to have reached a level of understanding before you're doing it, before you have any information in order to actually do the practice, and you're essentially just wasting your time, for lack of better words and terminology, and you are. And before people go, oh, formal training and formal practice, blah blah blah, most of these big secrets have all been written down. The books all tell you to take your time. They all tell you to do due process and due time. That doesn't mean read it as fast as you can. They're telling you to stop at that chapter until you're ready to move on, until you've mastered that part of the craft, until you've practiced it. And to master anything is going to take you at least 1,000 hours of work. Don't be put off by that, because within a few weeks you can get hundreds of hours done in a video game. I know that is a fact. If you've seen how long I've played video games like Cyberpunk for, you'd be fucking shocked. And it doesn't, and my point is, we don't need to start promoting these delusions in the community, we don't need to start allowing people to be insane. We've let this go on for too long, at least 10 years that I'm aware of, and it's horrible. The outcome is never good. It's always bad, and it always leads to people's downfall in the end. Most downfall is from confirming people's self-gnosis as reality. Self-gnosis is imagination. It's made up. It's fairy tales. It's as real as, it's less real than SpongeBob SquarePants, because at least there's a cartoon for people to verify it together. That's what self-gnosis is your imagination working for a process to try to come up with understanding that may or may not be a delusion of your mind or your deity. Most likely it's a fucking delusion. Now, this may be helpful and this may help you understand things, but you need to very clearly state it as self-gnosis. If you're going to present self-gnosis on your channel, state it as. If you're presenting made up bullshit spells that you've made up, at least make sure you research the reasons the ingredients are used. Research why they are used. Figure out what is the principles. Figure out why they were used in the first place. Figure out maybe they were used for planetary timings. Maybe they were used for chemical effects. Maybe they were used for sightings. So we got people doing alchemical experiments and drinking potions and winding up dead, having seizures in hospital. They should be expected. You're fucking insane if you're going with ancient recipes for chemical cocktails, trying to seek immortality or trying to seek the grand work or whatever, and you don't even know what the fuck they are before you're consuming them. You don't know what the chemical process is. You don't know what the pH is. You don't know about proofing these things. You don't know about toxicities. You don't know about the mixing of chemicals to reduce these toxicities. Basically, you don't know enough about chemistry to be doing alchemy, which is just chemistry, and then you're doing random stuff because you've read it in a book. To be quite honest, what I've experienced from a lot of people in the occult community is really good. From a select few, they are babbling idiots. Like, you got some of these really famous people with fucking these, trying to hawk off these spirit boxes to collect up energy, going on about vampirizing people for spiritual energy, and then turning around and giving people advices on how to curse. If you need to vampirize somebody for spiritual energy, you're fucked up. You don't know what you're doing in the craft. You don't know what you're doing in the practice, and you shouldn't be teaching people. You are still on step one of working on yourself, and that's the fair, honest truth about it. You are still on step one of working on yourself, because you're actually below step one. You're less than an infantile child in most cases. You have made the mistake of not being able to be self-reliant on magical energy. What I have in my hand right here, this whole heap of nothing, is an infinite amount of magic. Still an infinite amount. Between the fingers, still an infinite amount. It's infinite at it's infinite and non-finite at its smallest point, and yet you have to absorb it. That is a mockery. That means that you don't understand enough about the craft to even use what is abundant around you. And if you are in an environment where everything's getting absorbed from you so quickly and absorbed away from you so quickly, I would dare say it's probably a psychological situation more than anything. You're probably in a bad environment or bad situation. Or you need to work on rebalancing yourself. You need to go back to balancing yourself within the practice, which starts with meditation or trance work, if you will. Those terms have been interchangeable in the past and may as well be. You need to sit down for at least 7 minutes to start doing the practice and focus on your body. And if you are having issues with the energy work, focus on the energy within your body. And that's how you start the practice. And I would recommend start focusing at the base of the neck, where your head meets your spine, and focusing on everything stemming up from the bones there, through all the nerves, tendons, blood, to basically your body itself. Think about your bones as the stone, your blood is the water, and magic flowing through from there. So, yeah, I don't think I can cover any more in this topic apart from pull your heads in, demand other people to pull their head in, and demand yourself to be better in your practice, and actually help people by pointing out when they are flawed. It's not hard. Well, it's easy to do. Well, it's easy to say it's not hard, but it isn't hard. You just have to stop giving a fuck about people judging you. It can feel hard, but it's not hard to turn around and say, hey, look, you're wrong, because you are wrong. Anyway, basically, be a better person and demand others to be a better person. Stop being charlatans and stop being fucking moronic, fucktard, idiot, dipshit, dumb fucks.